said that we're assembled here to glorify and pay honour and respect to His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj, who passed away from this world yesterday. And it is with heavy heart that we have to speak of Bhakti Charu Maharaj in separation from him. And we, probably most of us, have enjoyed his association, some of us for many years, for many decades, and his guidance and his enthusiasm, his dedication to Srila Prabhupada. There are some of his disciples here, Damodar Guru of his disciple. Any other disciple of Bhakti Charu Maharaj? All right, so just to give you a little summary of the life of Bhakti Charu Maharaj. Bhakti Charu Maharaj was born in Bengal in 1945, and he spent his early life in the city of Calcutta. In 1970, he left India to study chemistry in Germany. He came across Vedic literature while in Germany, and he discovered the richness of India's spiritual heritage. In 1975, he returned to India to wholeheartedly pursue spiritual life. Although thoroughly studying the Vedic scriptures, Maharaj became aware of the need to find a spiritual master who could lead him on a sound spiritual course. After travelling to the Himalayas and searching for 1 year without coming across a spiritual master to whom he could fully surrender, he felt despondent and disappointed. When he had almost given up hope, he came across a book called The Nectar of Devotion by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Becoming engrossed in the book, he realised that he had found his spiritual master and the path he had been searching for. As he continued to read Prabhupada's work, his conviction grew stronger, as if his desire to meet Prabhupada, who was then preaching in the United States of America. In late 1976, in December 76, Bhakti Charu Swami joined the ISKCON temple in Sridham Mayapur in West Bengal and became more involved in devotional service to the Lord, all the while awaiting Srila Prabhupada's return to India. When Srila Prabhupada returned to India, the first direct meeting between Guru and aspiring disciple finally took place in January 1977. During that meeting, Prabhupada gave Bhakti Charu Swami the assignment of translating his books into Bengali and then made him his secretary for India affairs. Prabhupada gave Maharaj first and second initiation simultaneously in Mayapur on Gopurni 1977. So just after a few months after meeting Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Charu Maharaj had got two initiations, the first initiation and the second initiation, and then 3 months later, Prabhupada awarded him the renounced order of sannyas. So there's generally these initiations are separated for sometimes many years, and especially the sannyas order, but Bhakti Charu Maharaj being recognized by Prabhupada immediately, and I remember talking to some of the brothers who were with in Mayapur at the time, and Prabhupada took an immediate liking to Bhakti Charu Maharaj and commented to one of his disciples at the time, this boy is a very cultured boy from a high-class family, and he is very qualified. So I'm personally convinced myself that Bhakti Charu Maharaj was a very, very special person who was sent by Krishna, by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to assist Srila Prabhupada in his mission of spreading the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He, right from the very beginning of his life, he was situated in that. May not be apparent immediately, but it later became manifest when, of course, he met Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj travelled with and personally served Srila Prabhupada for the final year of Prabhupada's life. After Prabhupada's departure from this world in 1977, Maharaj served in Mayapur for several years while the society was going through a critical phase. In 1987, Bhakti Charu Swami became an initiating guru in ISKCON, and joined the Society's governing body commission, serving as its chairman in 1988 and again in 2017. By 1995, Maharaj had translated into Bengali all of Srila Prabhupada's works on major Vedic literatures, consisting of more than 50 volumes of books, including Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Nectar of Devotion, just as Srila Prabhupada had instructed him in their very first meeting. So there's a lot of books there, and off and on, finally after less than 20 years, about 18 years, Bhakti Charu Swami had finished translating all Prabhupada's works, or these works, into Bengali. That's a mammoth feat. I was talking the other morning about the glories of Maharaj Parikshit and how Prabhupada explained that how he is glorious. And the definition of glorious is that one who has attained, one who has very high qualities, saintly qualities, that person is glorious. And one who has attained and accomplished many achievements throughout their life, they are glorious. So we find that Bhakti Charu Maharaj had both the saintly qualities and so many achievements. Here I'm just summarising a few, just as travelling with Prabhupada, translating his books into Bengali. In 1996, Maharaj took on the mammoth task of making a biographical video epic of the life of his spiritual master, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, entitled Bhakti Charu. This video series was broadcast on national television in India and distributed globally on DVD. In 2004, at the invitation of the Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, Bhakti Charu Maharaj built a magnificent new ISKCON temple in just 10 months in Ujjain, the ancient and holy city also known as Ambantika, and the place where Krishna and Balaram went to school. Beautiful temple there. If any of you get the opportunity, we were there a couple of years ago at Bhakti Charu Maharaj's invitation to have a GBC meeting there, and he hosted us so wonderfully. And also, on one particular day, he took us all to the place of Sandipani Muni, the Sandipani Muni ashram, which is about 3/4 of an hour drive from Ujjain, and showed us the place where Krishna and Balaram went to school at the ashram of Sandipani Muni. Beautiful temple there. If you ever get the opportunity, a holy city, of course, Ujjain, one of the holy places where the Kumbh Mela is performed. You have Ujjain, you have Nasik, you have Triveni, Allahabad, and you have Haridwar. Those are the four places. Every 4 years they alternate. But Ujjain is very, very magnificent places. Many famous temples there. Wonderful place. And Maharaj accomplished the feat of building a grand temple for their lordships. The extraordinary mountain temple features 3 large altars for the worship of Sri Sri Radhaman Mohan, Sri Sri Krishna Balaram, and Sri Sri Gaurnitai, a Goshala, midday meals for school children, rural program to spread Vedic culture to village people, and several outreach centres in Bhopal and Indore. Bhakti Charu Maharaj also served as the ISKCON governor for France and South Africa at a time when these zones were facing immense difficulties. Through perseverance, he was able to turn the situations in these locations around. When we were facing financial difficulty in New Mayapur, and when we had trouble with the back taxes with the government in France, Maharaj was one of the main devotees to go, especially he went around the UK and fundraised to save New Mayapur, and I think he raised something about £800,000 at the time. So £800,000 to save the New Mayapur temple. Personally went around. Amazing feat. In 2007, Maharaj began an altar production facility in Ujjain. The facility manufactures beautiful deity altars of all shapes and sizes for temples and devotees globally. This is wonderful. Some of our temples here in Australia have got, and some devotees also, individual devotees have got altars made in Ujjain. Canberra has just ordered an altar from Ujjain. Huh?
Giri sing songs from Ujjain.
Which season?
Giri.
Oh, yeah. So in 2030, Maharaj began development of a new ISKCON temple in Panihati, a very holy place in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, where Raghava Pandit had his home and Lord Nityananda held his Chip Rice Chittadani festival. I had the good fortune of visiting. That's not so far away from when you come into Calcutta Airport, International Airport. Maharaj arranged for me to, I was going out to Mayapur and my flight came in late, so he arranged for me to stay nearby at a devotee's house nearby the temple. And so I stayed over, and that devotee was the temple president of the Panihati temple, and he took me out the next day and I led kirtan and gave class. And just right on the Ganga there, a beautiful place. So they've developed into a nice, very important holy place of Raghava Pandit and the festival of Chittadani. The festival of Lord Nityananda went, that you can read about in Chaitanya Charitamrita. In 2014, Maharaj established a Rogya Niketan, a traditional and authentic Ayurvedic clinic in Ujjain. He also joined Arthur Forum and began delivering keynote speeches globally on spirituality to large audiences of business leaders. Under his direction, the Ujjain ISKCON temple feeds more than 23,000 school children per day from its 6,000 square foot industrial kitchen. 23,000 school children. At one point, Maharaj also served as the chairman of the Anamrita Foundation, ISKCON's midday meals program, which feeds over 1 million children across India every day. Bhakti Charu also served twice as the chairman of the GBC Executive Committee. Was also the GBC Governing Commissioner for ISKCON in Mayapur, Calcutta, Ujjain, Bhubaneswar, Bangladesh and Seattle. For decades he travelled across India, the US, UK, South Africa, the Middle East and Australia, holding spiritual retreats and seminars and fulfilling Prabhupada's instruction to him to spread the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Maharaj is also very famous and very well known for his beautifully melodic kirtans and his insightful classes on the Vedic scriptures. Many of you have heard Maharaj's classes and also heard Maharaj's kirtan. Wonderful, very sweet kirtan and wonderful classes, very scholarly and very knowledgeable. He's able to speak so nicely. In 2016, Bhakti Charu released his memoir, Ocean of Mercy, wonderful book, if you haven't read that, A Search Fulfilled, in which he recollects his intimate interactions with Prabhupada. The book describes how he developed a genuine love and dedication to Prabhupada, who gave him a life in Krishna Bhakti. It's nearly finished it. On November 17, 2016, the Institute of International Social Development, New York, an NGO in special consultative status with the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations, awarded an accolade to Bhakti Charu Maharaj as a display of their gratitude for all the support he gave them on behalf of ISKCON in spreading the message of spirituality for world peace and understanding between nations and civilizations. In 2018, Bhakti Charu Maharaj served his last term as chairman of the GBC, reminding all the senior leaders who served with him of his caring mood and selfless devotion to Srila Prabhupada and the ISKCON societies of Bhakti Charu Maharaj ki. So glorious, amazing achievements, empowered by Srila Prabhupada, empowered by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to go everywhere, and he had a heart of gold, and very warm and affectionate. Anyone who had his associations thought that he was giving special attention to them and only them, but actually everyone felt the same way. He was so affectionate to everyone. It always felt like he had all the time in the world for you. And he has mentioned also, I was reading how, of course, Maharaj loved to cook. And I remember Carlos Sambara one time telling me that Bhakti Charu Maharaj had just left New Varshan in Auckland, and Maharaj said, I want to cook for the devotees today. And so he went in the kitchen, but then he saw Maharaj go out to the field and he had a pot, and he started picking what Kalasa Bharat thought was some weeds. So Maharaj is doing, he's picking some weeds out of it, and he's putting them in the pot, he's going to cook some weeds up. But then Maharaj explained to him that actually this was a well-known, I forget what it was, some sort of, so not a spice or something, but like a leaf, like a leafy vegetable that's well-known in India, and he happened to see it growing wild, and he went out and picked it and brought it inside to cook in the kitchen. So he's a very wonderful cook, and he would like to serve the devotee, very wonderful, very accomplished cook, and quite often cook for his godbrothers and anyone else who would come. So accomplished, in so many ways, in the arts, in kirtan, in speaking, and he had qualities he could practically do any service because he was qualified in such an all-round way. So a wonderful devotee will definitely miss his associate. He's one of the major gurus of ISKCON, the gurus and the major gurus. He's one of the major gurus of ISKCON who has disciples all over the world, and a great loss to our society. Not only the disciples, all over the world, everyone was praying. And when the news came yesterday, I'm on the GBC Executive Committee this year, so we were monitoring the situation quite closely. And Maharaj, when he came to America, he's got a project going in Delhi and there in Florida, and he wanted to travel there and see how the progress was going. But when he landed, he developed a high fever, and then the information came back he had contracted the COVID-19 virus. So he was taken there, but he was, and because of the restrictions of COVID, there was very limited who could visit him in the hospital. But he had Prabhupada's japa tape, he had kirtan, and they allowed him to, which is very rare, they allowed him to keep his tulsi beads on, his neck beads on, and his Gayatri thread, and all these things that normally they don't allow in those sort of situations. So Maharaj is there now, and he's still in the hospital. They're doing some official paperwork for his release. He'll be transferred to the funeral. His body will transfer to the funeral parlour and then prepared, and then his body will be taken from there once all the paperwork is completed and flown to India to be taken to Sridhar Mayapur. And in Sridhar Mayapur, they're preparing a samadhi where they put his body in samadhi near Prabhupada's samadhi, where all some other godbrother samadhis are there in Mayapur Dham. So, very wonderful devotee. I'll stop there because I know some others also want to speak. But Maharaj, do you want to say something? No? You can say something. Is there another microphone? Can we get it? Where's that hand? Or you can take this? Where's the handheld? Yes. Try to find that. So we found reference to where Prabhupada actually in Veda base there was a quote that Prabhupada wrote and to a devotee who just passed away, and he said that generally you can do some kirtan the day after, some ceremony the day after, but then 3 days after you have another one, and you do the kirtan and you have a arti again, and then you make sure that everyone gets prasad. That should be done 3 days after. So that'll be Tuesday. I don't know the devotees who are in charge here who can announce that if you want to come again. But officially, Prabhupada wrote like that in one letter that he sent to a devotee. He said that's just how we observe. 3 days after you observe. But and I know in Ujjain they're having they're going. Kirtan, I'm speaking tomorrow, online tomorrow at the Ujjain. They're going for 8 days. So every day they're having kirtan classes, and every day they've asked senior god brothers and god sisters to speak. I'm scheduled for tomorrow, and others are scheduled for so on and so forth. So they're going for 8 days, so we can go every day if we want. But officially, we do it today, we're observing it today, and then on Tuesday we can do another one. So we have that microphone.
I want to thank Ramaya Maharaj for giving us a wonderful iteration of the life of Bhakti Charu Maharaj. And I want to say that that it's a great loss for ISKCON that such a devotee has departed this world. And he has many amazing accomplishments. I think one of the things that he wrote, the executive committee wrote, was that he got up at midnight every day until he translated most of the Prabhupada books into Bengali from English. So that's quite an accomplishment. That's quite an austerity and a great accomplishment that Maharaj did. His ceremonies after his departure are kind of unprecedented in ISKCON. Even when Prabhupada left this world, there were a lot of ceremonies, but none of this nature, none of this scale. And we're talking about ceremonies that are going on in almost every country of the world by thousands of people, not just hundreds, but thousands, and maybe more than that, tens of thousands of people. So it's been a great loss, but at the same time, it's a very sad and very unhappy occasion, but at the same time, it's a very glorious occasion because we can see that one of Prabhupada's dearest disciples has ascended from this material world to the spiritual world, and that's a great blessing. And it also goes to show that that even though great souls like Maharaj have departed untimely, of course it's always untimely whenever they depart, but that somehow or other ISKCON is going on, and I had this realization when Srila Prabhupada departed this world, that at first I thought, well, there can't be any progress, any ISKCON after Srila Prabhupada, but after Bhakti Charu Maharaj, somehow things are going on, when we're having an assembly, sort of after the fact assembly here, and they're going on all over the world, and it's on the increase. When Maharaj spoke at the 50th anniversary in Sydney, there was an inclination that it was going to continue forever, and in a sense it is going to continue forever, because when we look back at 50, now it's been 53 or 54 years, we can see that Prabhupada's movement has gone from strength to strength, and it's continuing to do so, and it will continue to do so, even after this great loss. But at the same time, even though there's a continuation of many features of ISKCON after Maharaj's departure, it's necessary for us to create kind of a finality of his life, and it's partially been realized by the wonderful presentation today of Ramai Swami and by the executive committee's eulogy to him that came over to all of us on the internet. It's unprecedented, and it's a great loss, but at the same time it's a great occasion for joyfulness. And I think because the movement is known for its singing and dancing, we're able to do that, even though it's a very very unhappy occasion. When I grew up in the United States, and whenever there was a funeral, it was a very lugubrious, kind of sad, mournful situation. And I remember when one of my parents died, the casket was opened, and there was someone playing the organ, a very sad and mournful ballad. And then somehow or other, I managed to move my residence to New Zealand, and I found that the funerals there, I attended a funeral, were very much in the opposite way. People spoke about the accomplishments and the good things about the deceased, right there, and the casket was right in the church sometimes. And it was a very wonderful thing to see that. When I was in the United States, I used to go to the Museum of Modern Art. I was kind of an art, you might call, aficionado. And there was a funeral, a video of a funeral that was conducted in some part of India, I don't remember where, but it wasn't a very morbid occasion. Everyone was kind of singing and dancing, and the body of the deceased was carried on a palanquin type of thing, on the shoulders of the participants, and they were playing musical instruments. So it's a kind of a joyous occasion, as well as being a very sad occasion. these celebrations that we observe after the departure of a devotee are not all mournful, and there's a kind of an element of joy and happiness even after the departure of such a person. And I had some personal relationship with Maharaj, and I agree with everything that's been said so far, and we'll probably hear a bit more this afternoon that was said about Maharaj, and he was definitely a great soul. He was definitely a great soul, and showed the way that we have to pattern our lives. I mean, we can pattern our lives after him, and we can learn a lot, as I have done, and all of us have done. And we can see that dedication to Prabhupada is, or to anyone, spiritual master, is what makes life worth living. I think I better stop here.
The microphone is dead. It's going to die. Sorry.
Thank you. Maybe we can hear from one of our disciples? Nothing? No, I don't.
So, a massive thank you to everyone who's taken the time to come and glorify Maharaj and celebrate his life. Certainly for a disciple, it's extraordinarily comforting and inspiring just to see the massive outpouring of love and appreciation over the last few weeks, and especially the last few hours. I might just fill in some of the details. Maharaj spoke very comprehensively. Obviously, there is a sadness when you lose a personal association of someone to whom you look for shelter and guidance. At the same time, as Maharaj was saying, to celebrate a life, such an extraordinary life, knowing that someone was so focused and dedicated on pleasing Srila Prabhupada, you know that only leads to the most auspicious outcomes. Maharaj was saying when you receive Nectar of Devotion, which is quite an extraordinary book to get as your introductory book to Krishna consciousness. Within the first page, he knew that Srila Prabhupada was a spiritual master he'd been looking for. And actually that evening he had a dream of Srila Prabhupada atop a gorgeous throne. And that was his confirmation that this was the spiritual master that he'd been looking for. In fact, I'm trying to remember now who was saying it. Was Chakudam Divaji Janmi Janmi Prabhu say. I've also heard it say Janmi Janmi Pita say. Srila Prabhupada apparently said that. Someone asked Prabhupada, is a spiritual master your spiritual master life after life the same spiritual master? Srila Prabhupada quoted this, but he changed the Prabhu Lord to Pita, Father. Yes, your father is your father, life after life, your spiritual master. Maharaj also mentioned his first meeting with Srila Prabhupada. Actually, he was on a train. He tried to see the Kumbh Mela, but it was impossible to get past the security. Those days, actually, it was very difficult to get access to Srila Prabhupada. There were always quite a protective inner circle. But Bhavananda Prabhu, who took a leadership role here in Australia, befriended Maharaj, and on a train, when they were coming back from Kumbh Mela, Srila Prabhupada had his own carriage, and Bhavananda Prabhu just pushed Bhakti Charu Swami into that carriage to meet Srila Prabhupada. He threw himself on the ground, and quite astonishingly, Srila Prabhupada invited him to come and sit next to him. Maharaj, being very cultured, felt embarrassed to sit on the same level as Srila Prabhupada, so he peeled back the mattress or whatever, the cloth that was covering the seat, so that he would be at least a few inches lower than Srila Prabhupada. And in that very first meeting, Srila Prabhupada asked him to translate his books. So what an extraordinary recognition. And of course, Srila Prabhupada kept him very close by then. Apart from when Srila Prabhupada visited London, Maharaj was with him continuously, right through till Srila Prabhupada's very last breath here. To me, I'll remember him most for the steady role he played when ISKCON was really going through a rocky time in the mid-80s. At that time, quite a few of the leaders were having difficulties, and many devotees' faith was completely rocked. I remember 1986 he came to England. It was just a couple of months after Bhagavan had left. And I personally had doubts about approaching Bhagavan as a disciple. There was some misgivings. And Bhagavan's leaving actually in some ways was a relief, because I thought now I'm actually free to repose my faith wherever I can. And it was just a month or two later when His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami came through Soho Street, and he was giving an evening class every evening on nectar and devotion. And two things struck me immediately. One was his incredible humility. Like, it was such a contrast to the models that we've had in the past. Instantly you could see the personification of sadhu qualities and Vaishnava. You know, when you read Srila Prabhupada's books and you hear about the character of a Vaishnava, and here suddenly was the perfect embodiment of that. And that was quite stunning. But also listening to him, it was literally like reading Srila Prabhupada's books, the way he constructed a sentence. Perhaps he was so close to Srila Prabhupada's book because he was doing the translating. But I've never heard anyone speak, and it was so close to Srila Prabhupada. So instantly it awoke a lot of faith. I think the thing that really clinched my relationship with him, shortly after London I moved up to Leicester. We had a small preaching centre. We'd go down for the major festivals like Rath Yatra, and it must have been in June '87 at the Rath Yatra in London, where I cheekily, for a young bhakta, walked up to Maharaj and said, "Oh Maharaj, we don't get many saintly people visiting us in Leicester. Do you think possibly next time you come to England you could come and visit Leicester?" So he assured me that he would come. What I later found out is that on his very next trip to the UK, he landed at Heathrow at about 5 p.m, drove straight to Leicester, came to a program that we'd organised for him, stayed till about 11 p.m, went back to Heathrow and flew off. The only thing he did on his next visit was to honour a promise he made to a young precocious bhakta, which was quite stunning. So Maharaj always stressed the multiplicity of gurus. One of his very first instructions to him was always accept all the senior devotees around you also to be your spiritual master. In fact, he said, often their instruction will be even more significant than mine because they're always watching you. I'll try not to give a conflicting instruction. So extraordinarily supportive, and every one of his god brothers and god sisters will know that any time they were at an event together, he would ensure that whatever privileges were offered to him would be shared. If there was a high seat, if there was a special meal. And so he demonstrated to us just how important every member of the society is. One of the things he heard Srila Prabhupada say, someone wrote to Srila Prabhupada in Srila Prabhupada's final days, "Prabhupada, you take my life, you stay." And Prabhupada actually responded in a very surprising way. He said, "Your love for me will be shown by how you cooperate with each other after I'm gone." So even though his devotee offering Prabhupada his very life, Prabhupada actually asked, no, I want you to be able to cooperate with each other. And perhaps one of the things that Maharaj has really demonstrated is this cohesion. I think it's helped to keep the organisation go through some particularly rocky times. And it's certainly demonstrated to us Vaishnava etiquette. I'll mention a couple of other things and then I'll let someone else speak. So, back in those days, there was a GBC policy, maybe it's the same policy, that you had to study a book called The Spiritual Master and Disciple before you took initiation. And it was a compendium of all of Srila Prabhupada's instructions on the topic. If you said anything anywhere in any of his books, it was there somehow themed. And I remember there was a particular quotation, I think from the third canto, saying that the disciple should take instructions from the spiritual master as to their particular purpose. And the spiritual master is always expert that he'll know the particular capabilities of the person and engage them accordingly. And maybe it was my desire for distinction or something, so I said, oh Maharaj, what specifically is it that you'd like me to do? And so these words are etched on my mind because it was very apparent to me that if you take the order of the spiritual master as your life and soul, that is the method of spiritual advancement. And I think these are relevant to everybody. So it was certainly a cure for my distinction, or desire for distinction. So always serve Srila Prabhupada's movement with all sincerity and enthusiasm. Whatever happens, never leave ISKCON, and always cooperate with the other devotees of ISKCON. As far as your specific service goes, just do whatever your temple authority says in the best possible way. Although everyone knows him to be honeyed sweet, let me tell you, he could deliver a thunderbolt. And he experienced these himself from Srila Prabhupada. And I remember being on the receiving end of one in particular that threw me across the room, actually. The words had such fierce delivery that I literally reeled and hit the wall at the back of the room. In particular, he said that Srila Prabhupada took him aside at one point and gave him a 45-minute one-to-one lecture on don't get married. And give this one life to Krishna. And I think I got that same 45-minute lecture in about one sentence. And that's what threw me significantly. He also really gave me a hard time when I fell out with my TP at a particular point in time. And for the next 2 years, gave me such sauce that I was prompted to fix that relationship as best I could. I definitely recommend that you read Ocean of Mercy. Like, one of the things that's so wonderful, and it's scary because so many of Srila Prabhupada's disciples are now aging, passage of time. We're very grateful. Bhakti Maharaj has written Miracle on 26th Avenue, 2nd Avenue. All of these books give us an insight as to Srila Prabhupada's character. And Bhakti Charu Maharaj was one of the closest people to Srila Prabhupada in that last year. And so if you really want to get an insight as to how Srila Prabhupada prepared to leave the world, and even just some of the arrangements he made around succession and so on, that's just a wonderful book. I'll finish with just mentioning that to me he'll always be a beacon as to how Vaishnavas conduct themselves. And it's a very inspiring example to want to look up to. His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami ki jai.
At times like this is always, at least for me, challenging what to say. Because the thing that affects me most is just the loss that I'll never actually get to spend time with Bhakti Charu.
And I feel this is going to be a loss that we felt in his life for many, many years. That's when my marriage was coming out. He was always very, very active in the GBC meetings. His contributions, his interactions with his God brothers were just extraordinary. And as Ramai Maharaj was describing, described some of Bhakti Charu Maharaj's many extraordinary accomplishments for Srila Prabhupada. But the thing that gets me is when I think of Bhakti Charu Maharaj, I don't think so much of what he did, but actually who he was. The person he was, the qualities he lived. He didn't just talk about them, he actually lived the qualities. And a verse that comes to mind, or actually part of a verse, is the last line of a verse that Kapila Dev spoke to Devahuti about the symptoms of Vaishnava. And this is Sadhava Sadhabhushana. He was just, and this just came to my mind last night, about 20 past 10, I think, when I heard that he passed away. And just this whole perception of Bhakti Charu Maharaj as being just ornamented with so many saintly qualities. And one of the most outstanding, many wonderful qualities, you could speak for hours on each of the qualities and how he manifests those qualities. Even just simple things, like I remember one time we were at Bhakti and Maharaj was just popping in for a short visit, and Shruti Dharma and Prana had taken him upstairs to go to the bathroom. So it's England, it's freezing cold place, like, this is nothing, this is nice weather compared to England. But Maharaj still, because he's manifesting and he's demonstrating Vaishnava quality, he goes to the bathroom and washes his feet. He's like, for him it's just like a normal thing to do. And they're all like, gobsmacked because it's so cold and he's taking his socks off and he's washing his feet. But he didn't change who he was for any time, place, or circumstance. He was just always manifesting so many lovely qualities. But one of the most outstanding things for me of Bhakti Charu Maharaj was his relationships, his loving relationships with the devotees. In particular, this was manifested with his god brothers. I saw with Tamal Krishna Maharaj. They would regularly take prasad together, they would regularly spend a lot of time together. And I remember the year that Tamal Krishna Maharaj passed away, that they were having these bhajans. You were there too, right, from Maharaj? In Bhakti Charu Maharaj's rooms? And then they continued them for several years after that in remembrance of Tamal Krishna Maharaj. So they had a very, very sweet relationship. The exchanges were always very, very sweet. The same with Bhavananda Guru, very, very sweet relationships there. And also the great love and respect that his godbrothers had for him. This was also quite astounding for me, really. And the one thing that comes to mind when I think of these exchanges that Bhakti Charu Maharaj and his godbrothers would have, the one word that comes to mind is sweetness. These exchanges were always so sweet. Bhakti Charu Maharaj was always so sweet. Every time you interacted with him, he was always so sweet and so loving and caring, but this overall predominance of sweetness. I'll give you an example story. It happened in Fiji. Bhakti Charu Maharaj was taking prasad, Bir Krishna Maharaj, Bhakti Charu Maharaj was taking prasad, some other brothers were taking prasad as well. And then Bir Krishna Maharaj, he asked Bhakti Charu Maharaj, he said, can you give the Bhagavatam class tomorrow? He said, but what would I say? I don't know what to say. He says, Maharaj, even if you recited the phone directly, it would be like that. Just the exchange was just so nice between them. And then in terms of devotee care, Ramai Maharaj was mentioning about the midterm general meetings that happened in Ujjain. And right from the very beginning, you just felt that you were Maharaj's personal guest. When you arrived there, he came and saw you, nothing. He came to the room, you see everything was okay, you got what you need, let me know if you need anything like that. And he went around and checked every single devotee to make sure that, it didn't matter who they were, whether they were a god brother or just, whatever. He would check every single devotee. Then every day we're taking prasad. He comes and sees, is the prasad okay? Is there anything you need? Is your diet being, as you get older, the diet becomes a little bit sort of different. So he was checking that everyone's needs were taken care of. A real emblem of devotee care. And anyone who's ever been to Ujjain, I had this realization when I was there the last time. Maharaj had invited me to go for a Ayurvedic treatment. I was there for 2 weeks doing a treatment. And then it just sort of one day I was just outside chanting japa, it just dawned upon me that this Ujjain project is an ideal example of devotee care. Because if you look at the whole project, it's set up so that devotees can actually, all their material needs taken care of, so they can just focus on Krishna consciousness. He's built 2 high-rise buildings, I think they're about 12 stories each, 10 or 12 stories each for greenhouse accommodation. He's established a range of businesses there. There's, like, as Maharaj mentioned, the altar business. Also, Prabhupada murtis are made there now. They make clothes for deities, a lot of different things going on there, just to give devotees facility, so they can earn a living, so they don't have to worry about the material needs, and they can just focus on Krishna consciousness. Even, the temple there, I don't remember, what's that? You know that sannyasi's name, Dalda, who's in the temple there? Bhakti Charu. He's kind of like a young manifestation of Bhakti Charu. He's just like, he's so sweet. And all his disciples, and whenever you're interacting with his disciples there, they all have this same mood of wanting to serve the Vaishnavas, of wanting to please the Vaishnavas. It's a very, very inspiring place to go to. And if as Maharaj said, if you ever get the chance to go to Ujjain, you should really take it up. It's quite a wonderful place to visit. And if you can spend some time there, there's an Ayurvedic clinic there also, which they're quite good. I actually felt a lot better after going to the clinic. This whole idea of devotee care was very, very inspiring to me. Then I remember also there was a mention about his cooking. Maharaj was an amazing cook. I mean, not just, and actually, I understand he learned a lot of cooking from Srila Prabhupada. And one time he was cooking this preparation, just a story we were telling about sometimes you get a bowl from Prabhupada. He was making this preparation called Bhakti Charu Swami, which is these vegetables called portal. And you put portal on the bottom, and you cover them with mustard oil, a lot of mustard oil. And then Prabhupada told me you put 8 large chilies in the pot, and some other spices. And then Bhakti Charu Swami was thinking, well, 8 chilies is a lot of chilies, so I'll put 4 in. And so he cooked it. And it's an interesting preparation, the way they cook it, is so they cook it down to the oil like a sputter, And then he only put 4 chilies, and then Prabhupada had the preparation in the accordance. How many chilies did you put in there? And so Prabhupada said sheepishly, I put in 4. And Prabhupada said, what are you trying to do, kill me? There's so much oil in here, and you're only putting 4 chilies. You need the chilies to digest the oil. But I remember one of the first times I was in New Mayapur, it was Balaram Purnim, and at that time Bhakti Charu Swami was the GBC in New Mayapur. And, I was expecting that he was going to be upstairs giving the class and, all that kind of thing you normally see sannyasis. He was downstairs in the basement cooking the feast for all the devotees. He also, I remember the first few times I was involved in GBC meetings going back years ago, he used to arrange the GBC prasadam, and he would personally serve it out upstairs, outside his before the back room there was part of the GBC office, was part of his rooms. He would serve prasad up there, and he had the devotees from, what's that place in India? Manipur. The Manipur devotees were there serving as well. But Bhakti Charu Swami organised all that. So he's always, looking, he was always looking how to serve the devotees, how to care for the devotees. Very, very compassionate, as Ramana Maharaj also mentioned, heart of gold. He just cared for everyone. It just seemed like there was no person he didn't care for. And he was always, one of the reasons he started up these businesses in America, and he was doing so many different things, because he saw that devotees were struggling in their Krishna consciousness, struggling financially, things like that, and he wanted to help people. He really had this heartfelt need to really help devotees to prosper in Krishna consciousness. And so he would make a lot of personal sacrifice. The embodiment of like the verse says, this Sarva Sarvabhushana. He's just adorned with so many wonderful Vaishnava qualities. Bhakti Charu Swami ki jai.
Sadly, I had very little association with Bhakti Charu Maharaj, but when I met him in 1994 in Mayapur, it was Srila Prabhupada's disappearance celebration. When he realised I was a godbrother, he came up to me and he said, "Oh, you're my senior godbrother, I'll take shelter till I speak." I felt so embarrassed that he just made me feel so good. And he took us on this incredible parikrama around Mayapur for 7 days with his disciples and my family. And it was the most wonderful time we ever had in Mayapur. And there was just one other incident that I just want to describe, that a year later, or I think it was, that we were in Mayapur again and we were talking about the glories of Srila Prabhupada in the theatre and Srila Prabhupada's Samadhi. And he came to address us and he said, "I just really love talking about Srila Prabhupada because he saved me, who am undoubtedly the most simple person in this whole world." And I'm going, hello? So you've never broken the regulative principles as you're making that claim, but he's just making that claim out of his humility. He's just so humble. It was a lesson to meet such a wonderful person like that.
I wasn't expecting to talk, so I'm not prepared, so I'm just going to speak from my heart for Bhakti Charu Swami. I first met him as a child. I suppose I met a lot of people as a child. And I kind of, didn't really know them, or, because as a child you don't really know people that well. You just see them and you're like running around like this feral 9-year-old in Mayapur at the time. And, but I met him later when I was an adult and he spoke to me. He was very kind, very loving, very supportive. And I just want to mention like what you were saying, about how he treated people, how he was so loving and so caring. So I learned about that he spoke to me about my mother. He actually came to my mother's memorial at London at the Bhakti Charu. She actually wrote her a letter when she left her body. I received it on the day she left her body, and he wrote the most beautiful, honoring her as his mother, and he spoke about her as his mother. He said, she was so supportive and so encouraging, and so he had a very deep respect for the mothers of ISKCON, for the women of the Krishna conscious movement. And I understood that when he spoke to me, the respect and the caring, the way he was. I was really surprised because I was like, here's this person who's like, he's quite a big personality, but he took the time of day to actually get to know me. Obviously I was with Damodar, so he met me that way, but the way he was, the way he communicated, he spoke so well, and it really touched my heart when he came to my mother's memorial. He supported, us, her, in our grief, and this has really made me realize how this family that Srila Prabhupada gave us, it's so unique and it's so grand, and we have so many. I grew up with so many uncles and so many aunts and mothers and fathers and so many family members. So I got such a great gift from that. With that comes the other side, the loss that we're going to feel again and again in this life because we're losing people who are family. Whether he's someone that you knew, whether it's someone that you had association with, like physical, you knew him and you saw him, you spoke to him, or whether it's just you listened to his classes or his beautiful kirtans, which are completely just the most nectarian. It's like you're in the spiritual world. And I wish I'd had the experience to cook with him. That would have been like a really wonderful bonus in this life. I'm gonna go search the recipes that he used to cook for Srila Prabhupada and see if I can, get some of that nectar. But yeah, so we have these relationships with these incredible souls, these incredible, and I agree with Ramaya Swami that they've actually come here on a mission, they didn't just randomly appear here. They were sent by Krishna, who sent Srila Prabhupada, and who then was like, okay, we need an army down there because, Krishna knows we really need an army here right now. So he sent these amazing souls, and we've had such a privilege to be part of this and to know these people. And so I just want to say, I'm going to miss you so much, Maharaj, and thank you for all the love that you bestowed upon me and also my family. My father misses you. He's your godbrother and he will always remember you. And you're with Srila Prabhupada and with Krishna and Mata and all the wonderful souls that we no longer have here, but we have their association through the books they leave and the kirtans they leave and whatever we can get. So we've lost one of our most cherished members. All bless Bhakti Charu Swami. Srila Prabhupada.
Actually, maybe I can just do one anecdote about this erudition, because I meant to mention it, but I haven't written it down. Maharaj was talking about Maharaj's erudition, his knowledge, and there was one particular experience I had a few years ago that was super stunning. He was someone you could take any question to and know that you had an authoritative response. So there was a devotee, you may have all experienced him, who was very active on Facebook, sharing details of Raghunuga sadhana, arguing that this is something that the acharyas wrote about and something that you're not going to get to go loka if you aren't practicing Raghunuga sadhana. And by the way, I put a book together, and here it is. So I asked Maharaj how to respond if the acharyas did in fact write about this. What do we make of the fact that Srila Prabhupada never introduced such practices? So this is where my mind was completely blown. So first of all, he reels off about 10 shlokas from Adi Leela of Chaitanya Charitamrita, where it talks about the reasons why Lord Chaitanya appeared. And he's quoting them directly in the Bengali. Now, one of those I've ever heard quoted by anybody ever before. But he was quoting every single verse, one after the other, after the other, after the other, and building up the case that in fact, yes, Lord Chaitanya went through this thought process. How will they be able to access the higher rasas if they're all just following the rules? And he then switches to Navadvip Mahatmya. Now that's a book I've heard of, but quoting from it? And he instantly quoted a conversation between Lord Nityananda and Jiva Goswami, where the conclusion was, if you worship Lord Chaitanya in awe and reverence, then the doors to Goloka and the higher rasas are opened. And he just did that in the most matter-of-fact way. And I wouldn't even know who else I could take that kind of a question to. What to speak if they could actually quote from source literature without even looking it up, just on the spur of the moment. And that was just absolutely stunning. Bhakti Charu Maharaj.
Also, I would recommend that everybody watches Memoirs of Srila Prabhupada. The one Siddhanta.
Oh yes, Siddhanta was just uploaded one.
That's like gold. That's just like nectar.
Okay, I think that we can go to Ahati. We'll do an Ahati. So I don't think we've got push button in.
Do we have